President William Ruto has stated that he never attended the Paris Climate Summit to ask for help from rich countries, but rather to ensure that a reform of the global financial architecture enables developing countries to take part in the solution to tackle poverty, climate change issues, and shaping global economy. Jennifer Macau with more on the same.
A financial transaction tax at a global level where even countries like Kenya pay. We do not want anything for free. You will pay more eventually because you have a bigger economy. We will pay commensurate to our economy.
President William Ruto continued again to reiterate his call for a paradigm shift on the current financial architecture. A clearly agitated Ruto termed the system as unfair, punitive, because the structure imposes on countries from the global south to pay up to 8 times more interest than developed nations. Ruto called for a body separate from the IMF and the World Bank if in the event that new structures would be formed.
And we want those resources controlled not by IMF and World Bank. Because IMF and World Bank, you have the final say. We don't have no say. We want another organization of equals, where you have as much say because you pay, as much as we do because we also pay. That's the organization we are looking for. And that is why we are saying we need a new financial architecture, where governance, where power is not on the hands of a few people. We can agree on the governance of the institution. We can agree on the sharing of power so that all of us have access to resources that go to making sure, number one, renewable energy. We invest in decarbonization. Number two, adaptation, mitigation, smart agriculture. Number three, restoring our planet, restoring our biodiversity, and making sure our carbon sinks work.
He also pushed for a new architecture that provides a level of playing field where African nations would have a say in determining the rules of the engagement.
This is what we are saying, and we would appreciate a little understanding. We want to be, we are talking the normal. If we continue talking the normal, Emmanuel, we will never solve this problem. Things are not going forward, they are going backwards. Tokenism, installment will not solve this problem. We have a much bigger problem than the installment we are discussing here will solve. You're not hearing us.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa emphasized on a just transition for everyone to take into account the existential situation of various communities and what happens to them when there is no transit, not forgetting their job opportunities and the communities who live in such areas.
Had to say this should be a just transition. It must take into account the existential situation of various communities. What happens to them when we transit, to their job situations, communities who live in those areas. So all that needs to be taken into account, and any country that embarks on this journey must define what a just transition is going to be and what it is going to look like.
At the forum, Uganda climate control activist Vanessa Nakate emphasized the need to pay more attention to the millions of suffering children and women in the Horn of Africa.
In that moment, I really wanted our leaders to have a certain kind of reflection and ponder also on the impacts of the climate crisis. It is one thing for us to talk about statistics, to talk about numbers, but it's not statistics that are starving in the Horn of Africa. It is people, children, women. So for me in that moment, I just wanted them to understand the urgency of the crisis. We've seen promises, we've had commitments, but then many of them are never fulfilled. So we hope that whatever comes out of this, it turns into tangible action.
Though there has been widespread of praise and criticism in equal measures for President Ruto following the recent open attack in the status quo, especially in regard to global financial architecture and the approach to tackling climate change, his challenge for Africa progress remain unquestioned.